The colony world of Nivera was quiet that morning, but silence in space was often a mask. The human outpost sat on the edge of an alien trade route, a fragile point of contact between two civilizations that had only recently learned to trust one another. It was here that Dr. Elias Varon, a young medic assigned to the frontier, worked with steady discipline. Elias had grown used to the rhythm of colony life, treating miners with injuries, calming settlers shaken by long nights, and exchanging cautious greetings with the tall, silver-skinned visitors from the neighboring species, the Illyrians. The Illyrians were graceful beings, their voices carrying a calm tone like flowing water, but their biology was said to be so different that human medicine could never apply to them. That was the rule Elias had learned on his first day, and it was one he never thought he would test. That rule shattered when the alarm came. The radio burst with distress calls. An Illyrian convoy, carrying diplomats and scientists, had been struck by raiders in the canyon outside the settlement. Local security forces rushed to protect the survivors, but Elias was called for something different. A high-ranking Illyrian envoy named Serenya had been gravely wounded. The message was brief: she was dying. Elias gathered his kit and boarded the shuttle with a team of security officers. The canyon lay quiet when they arrived, with broken vehicles scattered across the dust and the scent of scorched metal in the air. Illyrian guards stood in silence, their silver armor reflecting the pale sun. In the center of it all lay Serenya, her luminous skin dulled, her breathing shallow. Elias knelt beside her, opening his kit. He had studied their anatomy as best as records allowed, but Illyrian medicine was still a mystery. Their organs did not align with human ones. Their blood shimmered with a faint glow, filled with elements no human body carried. The guards gave him room, but their eyes told him the truth: they had no hope. He tried every tool he had: coagulants, tissue stabilizers, artificial oxygen flow. Nothing worked. Her wounds refused to close, her pulse slipped away, and every moment made her life fade further. Elias felt sweat on his forehead, his hands trembling, yet he refused to stop. At last, a thought crossed his mind, one born from desperation rather than logic. The scanners showed her body had lost too much blood. Every attempt to synthesize a compatible replacement had failed, but Elias knew human blood could sometimes adapt in ways science could not explain. Humanity had survived countless plagues, climates, and wars because their bodies were built to adjust. Could it work here? Or was he about to make her suffering worse? The Illyrian guards saw his hesitation. One spoke softly, their language carried through the translator. "Is there nothing left?" Elias looked down at Serenya, her eyes half closed, her breath fading. He knew the answer he should give. But something inside him, a voice louder than fear, said no. He could not let her slip away without trying. He drew a syringe, tapped the vein in his own arm, and filled it with his blood. Then carefully, almost reverently, he transferred it into Serenya's failing body. The Illyrian guards stiffened, unsure whether to stop him, but none moved. They only watched, their faces caught between horror and desperate hope. Minutes passed like hours. At first, nothing changed. Her breathing remained shallow, her skin pale, her pulse faint. Elias began to doubt himself, to wonder if he had made a mistake. But then a flicker of color returned to her cheeks. The scanners began to steady. The wound, though still severe, stopped bleeding as heavily. Elias leaned back, relief flooding him. Serenya's chest rose more evenly, her eyes opening slightly. For a brief second, she looked at him, her gaze unfocused yet aware. She whispered something in her own language, too soft for the translator to catch, but Elias did not need words. He understood. She was alive. The Illyrian guards lowered their weapons and bowed their heads, a gesture of deep respect among their people. Elias felt the weight of what had just happened. He had broken every rule of medicine, crossed a line no one thought possible. He had given his own blood to save a life that should have been beyond his reach. As the shuttle lifted from the canyon, carrying Serenya back to the outpost, Elias sat in silence. His hands still trembled, but not from fear anymore. From that moment on, he knew this was more than medicine. This was the beginning of something no one could explain. The medical bay of the outpost was quiet except for the soft rhythm of machines. Serenya lay on the central bed, her silver skin glowing faintly under the lights. Monitors tracked her heartbeat, her breathing, and a dozen other readings that no human had ever thought possible to stabilize. Every line on the screen said the same thing: she was alive. Dr. Elias Varon sat in the corner, his uniform stained with dried blood, his own blood. He had refused to leave her side even after the nurses insisted he rest. He could not bring himself to step away. Something in him knew that this moment was greater than a single life saved. It was a question that stretched beyond medicine, beyond duty. Commander Hale, the head of the outpost, entered the room with measured steps. Behind him followed a group of Illyrian delegates, their long robes flowing like liquid silver. They stopped at the sight of Serenya, their eyes widening. Among them was High Scholar Aaron, an Illyrian elder known for his strict adherence to tradition. "She lives," Aaron whispered, his voice carrying both relief and disbelief. "Yes," Elias replied softly, his throat dry. "But not by any method we know. I gave her my blood." The words hung in the air. The nurses froze, and even the hum of the machine seemed quieter. The Illyrians exchanged glances, their expressions a mixture of awe and alarm. "That is not possible," Aaron said firmly. "Our biology rejects all foreign matter. We are not like your species. No union of our blood can exist." "I thought the same," Elias admitted, "but look at her. She should not be breathing. And yet she is." The commander folded his arms. "Are you telling us a transfusion worked between human and Illyrian?" Elias nodded. He expected anger, perhaps even accusations of recklessness, but what followed was silence. A heavy silence filled with the weight of something no one knew how to name. Serenya stirred, her eyes opening slightly. Her gaze moved slowly across the room until it found Elias. For a moment, the room faded for her and him both. She reached weakly for his hand, her voice no stronger than a whisper. "You saved me." The translator hummed, delivering her words into human speech. Elias felt his chest tighten. He wanted to explain, to tell her that it had been desperation, not genius, but the words caught in his throat. The Illyrian delegates leaned closer, their calm masks cracking. They had seen their kind fall to sickness and wounds that human medicine could not touch. Yet here was a human medic who had done the impossible. News spread quickly through the outpost. Within hours, every corridor buzzed with whispers. Miners, soldiers, and settlers looked at Elias with a new kind of curiosity. Some praised him, calling it a miracle. Others worried about what such a miracle might mean. By the next morning, scientists from both sides crowded the medical bay. They examined every scan, every drop of blood, every detail of Serenya's recovery. None of it made sense. Human blood was not supposed to bind with Illyrian cells, and yet it had done more than bind, it had repaired. Dr. Kellen, the senior biologist, frowned at the data. "This should be impossible," he muttered. "Your blood should have broken down inside her system. Instead, it is, working with it?" Aaron shook his head. "No, not working. Changing. Her body is adapting to it." The word adapting caught everyone's attention. Humanity's history was filled with adaptation, survival on harsh worlds, resilience through countless challenges. Perhaps human blood carried more than cells and oxygen. Perhaps it carried a secret written into its very nature. The questions piled higher than answers. Why Serenya? Why now? What had changed in the chemistry of one desperate act? For Serenya, the questions did not matter yet. She felt strength returning with every breath. When she looked at Elias, she no longer saw only a human medic. She saw the bridge between two worlds, though neither of them fully understood what that meant. Later that night, as the medical bay grew quiet, Elias sat beside her bed once more. He studied the machines, the data streams, and the woman he had saved. A thought lingered in his mind, a thought he could not shake. If his blood could heal her, what else could it do? Days passed in the outpost, but the sense of wonder never faded. Serenya recovered faster than anyone expected. Her strength returned in ways even Illyrian medicine could not explain. By the end of the week, she was walking again, her movements graceful, her silver eyes calm but thoughtful. Dr. Elias Varon watched her carefully. He noted every change, every improvement, yet one detail unsettled him. Her body was not only healing, it was changing. Subtle differences appeared in her scans, details no Illyrian had ever shown before. Her organs were shifting slightly in structure, her blood chemistry showing traces of human markers. The scientists argued over the data. Dr. Kellen insisted it was a side effect of the transfusion, something that would fade with time. High scholar Aaron claimed it was dangerous and unnatural. Elias, however, was not so sure. To him, it felt less like corruption and more like evolution. One morning, Serenya requested a private meeting with Elias. They met in the observation room, a place where the stars stretched like rivers of light across the glass wall. She stood quietly, her hands folded. "You look troubled," Elias said gently. "I am," she replied, her voice calm but firm. "My body feels different. Stronger, yet unfamiliar. I dream of voices not my own. And when I wake, I sense life stirring within me." Elias froze. "Life?" She nodded. "It is as if something grows inside. Not illness, not injury. Something alive." The words struck Elias with both awe and fear. He hurried back to the medical bay, running tests with trembling hands. The scans confirmed her claim. Deep within Serenya's body was a formation, small but undeniable, an early sign of new life. The room fell silent as the results appeared. Kellen leaned closer, his eyes wide. "Impossible. Two species cannot create life together. The genetics should collapse." Yet the evidence glowed on the screen. The tiny heartbeat pulsed faintly, steady and undeniable. Aaron stepped back, his face pale. "This is no blessing. It is a disruption of natural law." Elias felt his chest tighten. He had seen countless miracles of medicine, but never anything like this. He remembered the moment he had given his blood to Serenya. Could that single act have sparked something so extraordinary? Word of the discovery spread quickly, and soon the outpost was filled with tension. Humans whispered about a child of two worlds. Illyrians debated whether it was a sacred sign or a dangerous curse. Leaders on both sides sent urgent messages across the stars, demanding reports and explanations. Through it all, Serenya remained calm. She placed her hand over her stomach as if protecting what grew inside her. When Elias came to see her, she looked at him not with fear, but with quiet resolve. "This child," she said softly, "was not planned by either of us. Yet it is here. I do not see it as a mistake. I see it as a path. A path neither of our people could walk alone." Elias struggled to answer. Part of him wanted to celebrate the miracle. Another part feared what would come. Governments were not kind to mysteries they could not control. He imagined debates, experiments, even conflicts sparked by this one small life. That night, Elias stood outside the medical bay, staring at the stars. He thought about humanity's long history. Humans had always been fragile compared to other species. They had no claws, no scales, no wings. Yet they had something else: adaptability. It was the reason his blood had saved her. It was the reason this new life now existed. The thought filled him with both pride and dread. What if this child became a bridge between species? What if it became a reason for war? Inside, Serenya closed her eyes and listened to the faint rhythm of the heartbeat within her. It was small, fragile, but steady. She whispered to herself, "A child of two worlds." For now, the outpost remained quiet, but everyone knew silence never lasted long. Questions without answers were already gathering like storms on the horizon. The news of Serenya's condition did not remain within the outpost for long. Messages traveled quickly across the stars, carried by encrypted channels and curious voices. Within days, both human and Illyrian leaders sent envoys, scientists, and observers. The small colony that once felt distant from politics now became the center of the galaxy's attention. Serenya walked slowly through the corridors of the outpost, her steps calm, but her presence drew stares. Settlers bowed their heads in respect, while Illyrian guards shadowed her every move. Some looked at her with admiration, others with unease. She was no longer only an envoy, she was the subject of questions that touched every boundary of science, faith, and law. Dr. Elias Varon remained by her side. He had become both protector and witness to a mystery larger than himself. The scans showed the child growing at an unusual pace. What should have taken months was unfolding in weeks. The heartbeat was strong, steady, and unexplainable. At a council meeting held in the outpost's main hall, humans and Illyrians sat across from each other. The air was heavy with tension. Commander Hale spoke first. "We must face the truth. This event changes everything. If a human and an Illyrian can create life together, then the barriers we believed in no longer exist." High Scholar Aaron rose, his silver robe gleaming under the lights. "No. This is not unity. It is disruption. Our laws forbid such unnatural bonds. If this continues, our people may see it as an omen of danger, not hope." Elias clenched his fists, though he stayed silent. He wanted to shout that it was not danger but a miracle. Instead, he studied Serenya. She sat calmly at the center of the room, her hands resting gently on her lap. When she finally spoke, her voice carried strength. "This life did not ask to be born," she said. "Yet it exists. You may call it disruption, or you may call it unity, but you cannot deny its presence. If my people fear it, then let them see it with open eyes. If your people wonder, then let them study. But do not speak of erasing what is already alive." The hall grew silent. Even Aaron lowered his gaze, though his expression remained stern. Later, Elias walked with Serenya through the observation deck. Stars glittered beyond the glass, 1,000 worlds watching without judgment. She looked at them with a faint smile. "When I was a child," she said, "our teachers told us humans were fragile. They said your bodies were weak, your lifespans short. But what I see now is not weakness. It is something else. Your blood carries change. It carries survival. Perhaps that is your strength." Elias nodded slowly. "Humans have always found ways to live, even when the odds were impossible. Maybe this child is another example." Not everyone shared their calm. Whispers spread in the settlement. Some humans believed the child was a sign of destiny, proof that humanity was meant to connect with others in ways no one imagined. Others feared it could cause conflict with the Illyrians, who were already divided between acceptance and rejection. Tensions rose when a group of Illyrian delegates demanded custody of Serenya, claiming it was their duty to protect her and the unborn child from reckless human influence. Commander Hale refused, insisting that both sides had equal responsibility. The argument nearly turned violent before Serenya herself intervened. "I will not be taken as an object," she declared. "This is my life, and my choice. If you wish to guard me, do so with respect, not chains." Her words carried weight, silencing both groups. Yet the fear did not vanish. Instead, it lingered like a shadow. That night, Elias returned to the medical bay to review the latest scans. What he saw made his heart race. The child's development showed traits of both species' human adaptability woven with Illyrian structure. But there was more. The genes revealed new patterns, ones that belonged to neither species. It was as if something entirely new was writing itself into existence. Elias leaned back in his chair, staring at the screen. Fear and wonder battled within him. He realized this was not simply a child of two worlds. It might be the beginning of something greater, something that could unite or divide civilizations. In her chamber, Serenya placed her hand over her stomach, feeling the steady rhythm within. She whispered softly, not to herself but to the life she carried. "The stars will decide your path. But until then, I will guard you." The outpost lay quiet, but no one could ignore the truth. A new future had already begun. Weeks passed, and Serenya's condition became the center of every conversation in the colony. Scientists worked day and night, gathering data, running scans, and debating theories. Soldiers stood guard at every entrance, not only to protect her but also to control the constant flow of visitors who demanded answers. The child was growing faster than expected. In only a short time, it had developed to a stage that normally took months. Each scan revealed features that puzzled everyone. The shape of the heart resembled an Illyrian's, yet its rhythm matched that of a human. The bones were forming with human density, but the blood carried the faint shimmer unique to Illyrians. Dr. Elias Varon sat in the medical bay late one evening, staring at the glowing images on his screen. He rubbed his tired eyes, whispering to himself. "This is not just a mixture. It is something new." Dr. Kellen entered the room, holding a stack of reports. His face looked pale. "I checked the readings again. This child is not half human and half Illyrian. Its genetics are rewriting themselves, forming patterns we have never seen. It is evolution in motion." Elias leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. "Then it may not just survive, it may thrive." Across the corridor, Serenya rested in her chamber. She often sat quietly, her hand over her stomach, listening to the rhythm inside her. Some days she felt stronger than ever, as if the life within gave her energy. Other days she felt weak, her body struggling to keep pace with the rapid growth. But she never spoke of fear. Her calm presence gave strength to those around her, especially Elias. The colony, however, was less calm. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some settlers believed the child was a gift, proof that humanity's future lay in unity with others. Others feared it would bring conflict, that rival powers across the galaxy would fight to control or destroy what it represented. At a council gathering, tensions boiled over. Representatives from Earth demanded that the child be studied under human supervision. Illyrian elders declared that only their traditions could decide its fate. Voices rose, hands slammed against tables, and for a moment it seemed as if the fragile peace would break. Serenya stood then, her presence silencing the hall. "This life belongs to neither government," she said firmly. "It belongs to itself. You may study, you may watch, but you will not claim it. If you call it a bridge, then let it be one. If you call it a danger, then guard it wisely. But do not forget it is alive. It deserves the chance to be more than a subject of your fear." Her words carried across the room, calm yet powerful. Even those who opposed her fell silent, for they could not deny the truth in her voice. Later, Elias walked with her along the observation deck. The stars shone brighter than ever, distant and endless. Serenya spoke softly. "Do you fear what is coming?" "Yes," Elias admitted. "I fear what others will do. Not the child itself." She nodded. "I do not fear either. I believe this child was meant to be. Not because of chance, but because your people and mine were ready to see what was possible." Elias studied her face, calm and steady despite everything. For the first time, he realized that she was not only carrying a child. She was carrying the hope of two civilizations. That night, Elias returned to the medical bay to check the latest results. He froze when he saw them. The child's brain activity was unusually strong, far more advanced than expected for its stage of growth. The patterns looked organized, almost deliberate, as if the child's mind was developing faster than nature allowed. He stared at the screen, his breath caught in his throat. The child was not only surviving. It was becoming something new, something beyond both species. Elias whispered to himself, the child of two worlds, or perhaps the first of a new one. And though the colony slept, the stars seemed to burn brighter, as if the universe itself was waiting to see what would come next. The colony outpost no longer felt like a frontier settlement. It felt like the center of the galaxy. Ships came and went daily, carrying scientists, diplomats, and soldiers. The air buzzed with tension, every corridor filled with quiet arguments. All of it circled around one truth: the unborn child growing inside Serenya. Dr. Elias Varon felt the weight of it every hour. He moved through the medical bay surrounded by watchful eyes. Every scan he ran, every note he made was studied by committees. Yet the more he learned, the less he understood. The child's growth was steady but strange. Its mind showed signals of awareness far earlier than expected. Its body adapted in ways beyond science. One evening, Commander Hale called Elias into the strategy chamber. The lights were dim, the room crowded with human officers and Illyrian elders. Maps and data floated above the table, glowing in blue and silver. Hale's voice was firm. "We must decide. There are factions calling for intervention. Some demand the child be secured for study. Others fear it should not be allowed to exist at all. The question is simple: what future do we choose?" High Scholar Aaron rose slowly, his expression grave. This is not a question of study or fear. It is about order. Our traditions have stood for centuries. A child born of two species breaks that order. If we allow it, what comes next? Chaos. Elias felt anger stir inside him, but he spoke with calm strength. This is not chaos. This is life. A new life. To erase it or to lock it away would be a crime against everything both our peoples claim to value. The room erupted in voices. Some sided with Aaron, others with Elias. The debate rose like a storm until Serenya herself entered. Her steps were steady, her presence commanding. She looked at them all with quiet authority. I will make this choice, she said. Not you. Not your councils. Not your governments. This life is within me. I will decide its path. The chamber fell silent. No one dared to argue further. Even Aaron lowered his gaze, though his eyes burned with disapproval. Later that night, Elias found Serenya sitting on the observation deck, the stars reflecting in her silver eyes. She looked calm, but he could see the weight she carried. You stood against them, he said softly. I had to, she replied. If I let them decide, this child would become a tool, a weapon, or worse. It deserves more than that. Elias nodded, though worry gnawed at him. They will not stop pressing. Some already see you as dangerous. Serenya turned to him, her voice gentle. Then we must protect it together. This is not only my child, Elias. It is ours not in the sense of parentage, but in responsibility. You gave it life when you gave me your blood. Now you must help me guard it. Her words struck deep, and Elias felt a quiet resolve settle in his chest. He realized then that this was no longer only about science. It was about trust, loyalty, and the courage to stand against fear. The following days grew heavier. Reports arrived of unrest on Illyrian worlds. Some groups saw Serenya's child as sacred, calling it a sign of unity. Others called it a threat that must be stopped. Human colonies echoed the same division. Hope and fear spread side by side. In the medical bay, Elias studied the latest scans. The child's development had reached a stage that should not have been possible yet. Its heart was strong, its brain activity sharp. He placed his hand against the glass of the monitor, whispering, "You are already changing everything." That night, a quiet alarm rang through the outpost. Security detected an unauthorized ship approaching. Unknown signals filled the air, cloaked in static. Elias rushed to the command deck, where Hale ordered defenses prepared. Aaron's face grew pale. They are coming for the child. Serenya stood in the center of the room, calm even as tension spread. Her hand rested gently on her stomach. She looked at Elias, and in that moment he understood. The choice was no longer about councils or politics. It was about whether they would protect this new life with everything they had. He nodded, his voice steady. Then we stand together. The outpost prepared for what was to come. Outside, the stars shimmered, silent witnesses to a decision that would shape the future of two worlds. The outpost stood under tension as the unknown ship drew closer. Soldiers moved through the halls, scientists secured their data, and diplomats whispered in quiet corners. Everyone feared that the vessel carried those who wished to take Serenya and her unborn child. Yet when the ship arrived, it did not attack. Instead, it hovered silently in orbit, sending no clear signal. Days passed with no move from it, but the presence of the vessel weighed on everyone like a shadow. Inside the medical bay, life followed a different rhythm. Serenya's time had come. Her body, though Illyrian, had been reshaped by Elias's blood and by the rapid growth of the child. The process was exhausting, and though she was strong, Elias could see the strain in her eyes. He stayed by her side, refusing to leave. "This child will come sooner than expected," Dr. Kellen warned. "Its growth has not followed normal patterns. We must be ready." Serenya gave a faint smile. "I am ready. I have been ready since the moment I felt its first heartbeat." The hours were long. Outside the medical bay, soldiers kept watch. Within, doctors and nurses worked in careful silence. Elias held Serenya's hand, guiding her through each wave of effort. She never cried out, never faltered. Her strength was steady, her will unshaken. At last, the room filled with the sound they had waited for, the first cry of new life. A small figure was lifted into the air, wrapped in soft fabric, glowing faintly under the light. The child's eyes opened, not silver like Serenya's, not brown like Elias's, but a mixture of both, shining with a strange brilliance. Its skin carried the shimmer of Illyrian light, yet the warmth of human tone. A being of two worlds, yet belonging fully to neither. Everyone in the room fell silent. Soldiers, scientists, and diplomats alike bowed their heads without being told. Even Aaron, who had doubted until the end, lowered his gaze, his stern expression softening. Serenya cradled the child gently, her eyes glowing with quiet joy. "You are here," she whispered. "You are proof that the impossible can live." Elias stood close, his heart pounding with awe. He had seen miracles before, but none like this. For the first time, he felt that humanity's greatest strength was not only survival, but creation of new paths. Word spread through the outpost like fire. The child's birth became the center of every conversation. Some spoke of hope, others of fear, but all agreed on one thing: history had changed. Later, in the main hall, both humans and Illyrians gathered. Serenya walked slowly to the center, the child in her arms. The crowd fell silent as she raised the infant slightly, allowing all to see. "This life is not mine alone," she said firmly. "It is not human, it is not Illyrian. It is the beginning of something greater. You may fear it, but fear has never built a future. Only courage has. Let this child be a symbol of courage, of unity, and of what we can become when we choose hope over fear." Her words carried through the hall like a flame. People bowed, some with tears, some with determination. The unknown ship that had lingered in orbit finally sent a signal, a single phrase translated into both languages. "We are watching. Do not fail this chance." Then it vanished into the stars, leaving mystery behind. Elias stood beside Serenya, his voice low but steady. "Do you think they will listen? Truly listen?" Serenya looked down at the child, who slept peacefully in her arms. "They will," she said. "Because they must. The universe will not allow us to turn back now." Outside, the stars stretched endless and bright. The child of two worlds slept, unaware of the storm it had calmed, unaware of the hope it had ignited. For the first time in history, humans and Illyrians stood side by side, not as strangers or rivals, but as witnesses to something new. The future was uncertain, but it no longer belonged to fear. It belonged to the child who carried the legacy of both. And as the outpost settled into silence, Elias felt a single truth take root within him. Humanity's gift was not only endurance. It was the ability to create beginnings where none should exist. A new beginning had just arrived.